Welcome back, Midnight Wanderer. Tonight, the swamp hums a lullaby for all the broken disco balls and half-hearted affirmations you once tried to live by. Here, no one expects you to sparkle on command. Here, even unicorns are allowed to feel like yesterday's confetti. Let go of the part of you that's still rehearsing how to be okay. Let the fog hold that for now. Let the moss remember who you were before you thought being bright meant being fine. Close your eyes. Unclench your jaw. Even glitter gets tired, especially glitter. Now, drift with us, sweet dreamer. The moon is watching. The frogs have gone politely silent. And in the glow-dimmed corner of the swamp, one unicorn is about to crack open, just enough to breathe again. Let's begin. Broken sparkles and muffled identity crises. Tonight, the swamp doesn't sparkle. It pouts, sulkily, like a birthday balloon 3 days past its party, still floating, but with the energy of someone who forgot what they were celebrating. The fog hangs lower than usual, as if it's trying to eavesdrop on sadness. It doesn't move, it loiters. Even the fireflies flicker half-heartedly, their light pulsing in sighs instead of sparks. The sadness flowers are too exhausted to sigh theatrically, so they just sag in synchronized dismay. One attempts a slow-motion collapse, then gives up halfway and pretends it was a stretch. Even Fernanda, queen of chlorophyll-based drama, simply mutters, and topples sideways into a puddle with all the grace of a feigning diva on a soggy stage. Her petals stick to her face like regret wearing mascara. Nearby, a delusion bunny tries to revive her with interpretive fanning using a moss leaflet. The attempt is appreciated, but fails. Fernanda groans and demands a glitter IV and 3 weeks of undisturbed wallowing. A damp hush clings to the roots. Not the kind that hushes for peace, but the kind that hushes for tension. The air is too still, too listening, like it's waiting for someone to admit something uncomfortable. The vines twist tighter, slowly wrapping around tree trunks and stone memories. Not maliciously, not yet, but with the awkward tension of someone reaching out for a hug and realizing halfway they don't know where their arms go. They hover, unsure, affection tangled in self-protection, and in the middle of it all, Sparklehoof. He isn't standing, he isn't glowing, he isn't even sulking with the flourish he once mastered. He is simply there, folded in on himself like a forgotten fairy tale, spine curved into a question mark, eyes glazed with existential mildew. Once a beacon, once the sparkle in every group hug and glitter bomb, once a symbol of "you've got this" printed in holographic letters. But now he's a damp pile of cosmic confusion, a fallen disco star surrounded by wilted flower fans, murmuring old affirmations under his breath as if they might turn back into spells. A frog hops by and offers him a damp crouton from its anxiety salad. Sparklehoof takes it. He doesn't eat it, he just holds it. Because sometimes even glitter kings don't know what to do with kindness when they're not glowing. And the swamp, it watches. It doesn't interrupt. It just lets him sit, dim, unfolding, unremarkable, and finally, maybe a little bit real. The fall of a glitter king. Near a tree decorated with the scorched remains of self-help quotes, once laminated in hope, now curling in defeat, Sparklehoof lies in majestic surrender. The trees creak softly, dropping motivational ash like the confetti of a party that should have been canceled 3 feelings ago. His mane, once a cascade of celestial drama and intergalactic ambition, now drapes across the moss like forgotten tinsel. The kind you find in June and wonder why it's sticky. His tail is tangled in a quote that once read, "Shine from within," now partially melted to "Shin Iwit in." His horn, formerly sharp with optimism and glitter-fueled declarations, droops like a sad spoon left in cold tea. Even the unicorn sparkle aura that used to buzz with performative positivity now just fizzles gently like expired soda. "I used to sparkle," he whispers, not to anyone in particular, not to be pitied, just to say it out loud. The way you say things when you're hoping someone else will believe them for you. The swamp doesn't answer. It's seen worse. It's hosted worse. It doesn't judge. It listens. Something in the vines sighs. A bubble rises from a distant puddle and pops with the soft sound of emotional closure. Anxiety Tabby emerges, cautious and twitchy. She's holding a laminated card titled "Things That Are Technically Still True." She lays it down next to his hoof like a wet napkin for the soul. "You technically still do," she says, with the nervous tone of someone comforting a fire with a blanket made of panic. "Just less like a weapon, more like a decorative hazard." Sparklehoof snorts, not with humor, with defeat. He drops onto his side, dramatically, theatrically, and with enough exaggerated inertia to shake 3 nearby sadness flowers into anxious blooming. "I tried sparkle muffins," he says. "Extra sparkle, triple glitter, limited edition. I felt nothing." A long pause. The air thickens. Somewhere, a frog drops its tiny fork. "What if sparkle muffins don't fix despair?" he mutters. A longer beat. His voice softens like a childhood sticker fading on a window. "What if I'm just a placebo with hooves?" The swamp does that quiet inhale thing it does right before something awkward happens. And sure enough, from behind a particularly passive-aggressive grief bush, Grimlin's voice detonates. "We have enough placebos. be a metaphor or go to bed. Everyone flinches. A frog drops its salad. A moth forgets how to flutter. Fernanda faints again, but with flair this time. Grimlin stomps out from the underbrush holding a broken disco ball in one paw and a cursed cookie in the other. Her eyes glint like sarcasm polished with trauma. I swear, she yells, if one more emotionally repressed unicorn collapses in front of that tree, I'm gonna start charging rent. Sparklehoof raises a hoof half-heartedly. Is it okay if I pay in self-doubt? Grimlin glares, then throws the cookie at him. It lands with a soggy thud next to the motivational rock engraved with "Believe in your inner glow." The glow is cracked. No one is surprised. And somehow, in that exact moment, even the sadness flowers giggle. Not cruelly, just with the tender relief of something finally being true enough to laugh at. Even the moss rolls its eyes, but kindly this time, as if to say, we know, we've always known. You were never just the glitter. Reflection in the mud. Sparklehoof crawls to the nearest puddle. His limbs drag like wet paper streamers after a failed party. Each hoof step squishes with the reluctant drama of someone who knows they're having a moment and refuses to make it poetic, but kind of hopes someone's watching anyway. He leans over the water, murky, unbothered, and mildly judgmental. He stares into the muddy mirror, half expecting to see the swirling disco ball of yesteryear, maybe twirling one last motivational wink. But instead, a sad sparkle ghost, eyes too wide, nostrils flared with quiet panic, glitter clinging to the fur like regret that forgot when to leave. He blinks at his own reflection. The reflection blinks back, slightly delayed, as if it's also questioning its life choices. Saspern appears from the mist like a delusioned campfire spirit. Her flames flickering at 12% SAS capacity. One ember puffs out mid-sentence, and she doesn't even bother relighting it. You're not alone, she says, her voice hoarse from too many sarcastic monologues. We've all lost the plot. Some of us even lost the table of contents. She flops beside him with the grace of a dying candle. Her tail lands on a mushroom. Neither apologizes. Melonkitty arrives shortly after, draped in fog and whatever the emotional equivalent of vintage perfume is. Her eyes are soft, not weak, but weathered, like she swept through enough endings to know which ones matter. Maybe you're not here to shine for others, she murmurs. Maybe you're here to show the dark how to drink tea. Sparklehoof's lower lip trembles. He tries to answer, but instead lets out a tiny hiccup of existential confusion. Then, in a voice so tiny it might have been borrowed from a baby leaf, "Leaf soup," he corrects pitifully. Melonkitty smiles, not in mockery, not in pity, in recognition. The metaphor still loves you, she says. And that sentence, absurd and honest, lands in his chest like a blanket that's been pre-warmed by someone who gets it. Silence falls, but not the kind that's empty. The swamp exhales with them, long, slow, and slightly damp, like it's been holding its breath since Sparklehoof's last glitter tantrum, and has finally remembered how to breathe with him instead of around him. Somewhere nearby, a firefly lights up, then fizzles out, then lights up again, unsure if it's symbolic or just having a moment. And beneath Sparklehoof's hooves, the mud murmurs softly, like it's proud of him for finally looking into himself and not running away screaming. Well, not tonight anyway. The walk between worries. Come, Gloompur whispers, her voice soft as swamp breath. Walk with us. The moss parts like an old blanket. Sparklehoof rises, limbs stiff with sorrow, hooves squelching through the forgiving muck. Fireflies drift like sleepy thoughts above him. A cattail bows in greeting. The fog curls closer, not to obscure, but to comfort. No one talks, but everyone listens. To the swamp, to each other, to the quiet griefs and secret hopes stitched between heartbeats. They pass the tree of misplaced intentions. Grimlin is perched there, eating a cookie aggressively. If you say something hopeful, I will scream, she warns. Sparklehoof says nothing, just sits. Grimlin, after a beat, scoots half a cookie his way. I broke the disco ball again, she mutters. Turns out rage makes poor glue. He nibbles it. It tastes like burned sugar and childhood dreams. They sit like that a while. Two cracked things pretending not to hold each other up. Tiny spark, real breath. Sparklehoof lets go of one tiny breath. Not a gasp. Not a gasp for attention. Just breath. Raw, uneven. Like it's never been given permission before. Like even his lungs forgot how to do it without an audience or an agenda. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't glow. It just is. Warm and trembly and absolutely not monetizable. And yet, the swamp leans closer because there's something sacred in the way his chest rises and falls, like an old lullaby remembered mid-cry. The breath smells like burnt glitter and hope on discount, a leftover shimmer from last season's emotional clearance sale. There's a hint of moss tea and something faintly sugary, like someone tried to make joy from swamp roots and half a recipe. And it matters. It matters more than dramatic flops, more than the sparkling entrances, the motivational speeches delivered on floating lily pads. because this one breath doesn't try to prove anything. It simply asks, what if I don't have to sparkle to be seen? His horn flickers, not in a theatrical glow, but in that soft, almost private shimmer of someone who's learning how to feel without deflecting. The light barely holds, but it doesn't need to. It wobbles once, then steadies, like a candle that's made peace with the wind. A delusion bunny, watching from behind a damp fern, claps with such unfiltered delight that both its ears fly off and into its teacup. It doesn't mind, it's too proud. Another bunny, clearly more emotionally fragile, gasps so dramatically at the sight of the flicker that it swoons into a pile of flower-shaped tissues embroidered with anxious affirmations. Grimlin from somewhere in the underbrush mutters, "Oh great, he's glowing again. Cue the glitter cult." She's ignored, because all around Sparklehoof, the swamp shifts. Not grandly, not loudly, just enough. A moth pauses mid-flap. A frog stops journaling. Even Fernanda flutters one wilted petal as if applauding in dramatic slow motion. And on a messy rock, smooth, damp, and slightly glowing with forgotten feelings, someone scribbles with a broken eyeliner pencil dipped in sincerity. Sparklehoof 2.0, now with 30% more authenticity. Below it, someone else adds in the tiny print, beta testing vulnerability. Please be gentle. And the swamp, wise and watchful, doesn't cheer. It just breathes with him, matching his rhythm, one flicker at a time, because sometimes one honest spark is exactly the revolution the mud has been waiting for. The swamp sighs. Tonight, it does not demand progress. It does not expect glitter. It only asks for breath, for presence, for softness to be enough. Sparklehoof hums, not for applause, but because the silence finally feels safe. He may forget this piece tomorrow. He may doubt again. He may cry into the leaf soup and monologue dramatically at the moon. But tonight, he stayed. He breathed. He let one honest spark. He let one honest spark replace the thousands of performative ones that came before it. And in the quiet, the swamp hummed back, ancient and amused. Sleep now, dreamer. Let your sparkle rest. Let your sadness be sleepy and strange and sacred. You don't have to shine. Just stay. Just breathe. And maybe, just maybe, hum back. Stay here, dreamy heart. You don't need glitter to belong. You don't need to fix yourself to be safe here. If you flicker, we'll flicker with you. If you cry, we'll hold the puddle. The swamp sees you. Sparklehoof sees you, and tomorrow we'll try again. But for now, just sleep.